Hello, and welcome to the Nature Disturbed podcast, a podcast about the good, the offensive, and the confusing parts of the animal kingdom. This podcast was recorded on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. This episode contains strong language and adult themes. Wow, we've finally made it to episode 3. What a huge milestone. If you've been enjoying the series so far, then first of all, thanks very much for listening. A generous rating, a subscribe, or a share would go a really long way in supporting the podcast. And if you aren't enjoying it, well, why aren't you enjoying it? I would love your constructive feedback. Fucker. What? No, I didn't say anything. And if you didn't know, I'm illustrating and animating both the researchers and the creatures who appear in this podcast as a sort of visual companion. You can see them at Nature Disturbed on Instagram. And without further ado, I'm sat here in my kitchen sink, and today I'm wearing an electric shock collar, the kind that people use to train their dogs. I've turned it up to maximum, and I have the remote control here. I've set it onto random so that... Fuck! Oh. I can't remember where I was going with that sentence. I've also put the toaster in the water with me and left it plugged in, but the bloody thing isn't working. Let's dive right in with a little quote to spark your interest. It's a lab journal entry made by Michael Faraday, physicist and chemist, made on the 19th of March, 1849. He wrote, "Nothing is too wonderful to be true, if it be consistent with the laws of nature. And in such things as these, experiment is the best test of such consistency." Some animals feel like they shouldn't exist. They feel like something a stoner would throw out as a cool hypothetical, or a speculation of what aliens might be capable of. Electric fishes are a perfect example of these. If electric animals weren't real, we would make them up. In fact, they are real, and we still made them up. Just look at Pikachu. Just look at him. Ugh, he's so cute. We use electricity for everything. We use it for... we use it for something. Look, I'm not a physicist. That's going to be a reoccurring theme of the Nature Disturbed podcast. But rest assured, electricity is coursing through our homes, powering our modern lives, lighting our surroundings, on our screens, in our ears, running through our streets, telephone wires, above, sizzling like a snare. Honey, I'm on fire. I feel it. In the air. Nothing scares me anymore. I think that electric collar is going to my head. So, if you haven't guessed, this episode is all about electric fishes. The best known examples of these are, of course, the electric eels of the genus Electrophorus, which live in South America. Fun fact, they aren't actually eels, but are knife fishes and are more closely related to catfish. Is that a fun fact? More like an earth-shattering fact, which makes you realise that you've been lied to your entire life. But I suppose that's fun in a way. Where does the remarkable ability to generate electricity to stun prey come from? Well, while we are alive, we are all electric. I have a twitching muscle right now. That's because I slept on my arm funny and I've had far too much coffee. And what a twitching arm indicates is that an electrical signal, known as an action potential, is being sent through my body. Electricity is used in our bodies all the time. When synapses fire and signals are sent to and from the brain, a message is being carried in the form of an electrical charge. These charges pass from one cell to another and lead to actions. For example, right now I'm making a very rude gesture with my middle finger at my cat. That's because I'm harnessing the power of electricity to send signals and commands through neurons and synapses, leading to a response. I'm just kidding. I don't have a cat. As you can see, there is a basis upon which electric eels have developed their ability. It didn't just come out of thin air. What took them down this evolutionary route? Was it so that stoners in 2025 could have their minds blown out of their goddamn skulls in awe of how gnarly they are? Or was it so that they could inspire an Italian chemist to spend years of his life splashing around in salt water and playing with frogs' legs? Because if it was either of those things, then it worked. Now, the second part of that comment might need some explaining. Alessandro Volta, after whom the Volt was named, is the Italian chemist to whom I was referring. His full name is Alessandro Giuseppe Antonio Anastasio Volta, which is not really relevant, but it is a very nice name. Volta was the inventor of the voltaic pile. Although piles are usually a painful nuisance, this pile represented a cornerstone in humanity's industrial revolution, because it was the very first electric battery. Volta used various combinations of metal, salt water, and frog's legs to develop his ideas, and ultimately settled on zinc, copper, and brine-soaked cardboard as a way of generating a steady current. It is said that he was inspired by the electric eel, an animal which was new to Western scholars, and which appeared to be a living battery with a positive pole at its head and a negative pole at its tail. I have to say, that's enough physics. That's all I can handle. To the physicists out there, I want you to know that... No, I'm not going to say that. That's mean. Let's just say... No, that's also unkind. What I will say is that you are very weird and boring people. That sounded less cruel in my head. You know what? That one served me right. Well, anyway... I've dug myself a hole, so now I will hand you back to my past self. I ventured through the tributaries of the Amazon to see if I could find some electric fishes, and to speak with electric fish researcher Dr. Cassandra Ford. Hi guys. I'm currently wading up to my hips through the floodwaters of the Iriri River in northern Brazil. It's a tributary of the Xingu River, which itself feeds into the Amazon. So, I'm in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. The water here is murky. It's the rainy season, and the river has spread out across the forest floor. I can't see more than a few centimetres below the surface. I'm wearing a bright yellow set of rubber waders, you know, the sort of welly boots that go all the way up to your neck. I'm hoping the rubber would be a barrier to electrocution. I look a pillock. It's not flattering at all. I hope I don't run into anyone. Except for Cassandra, of course. I certainly hope I catch her. That's why I'm here. Cassandra is an assistant professor at the University of Minnesota and curator of fishes and mollusks at the Bell Museum. And she is devoted to uncovering the secrets of electric fishes through her research. There is another reason I'm here, and that's because, well, I've brought a Pokeball with me, and I'd quite like to catch one. Electric eels really do seem magical. Did I mention that electric eels aren't actually true eels? They are in fact a knife fish. And here I am, on the home turf of Electrophorus voltaei, named after Alessandro Volta himself, one of the 3 electric eel species, and the one capable of producing the highest voltage. It's the strongest bioelectricity generator in nature, able to produce up to 860 volts. The voltage coming from a wall socket in the US, for comparison, is only 120 volts. If I don't find myself an electric eel, the Amazon is brimming with other far-fetched, magical creatures straight out of the mind of a child or a crackhead. Take the pink river dolphin, also known as Boto. Folklore would have it that these elusive creatures appear in the form of an attractive man who lure women away and get them pregnant. Males of this species display the unusual behaviour of ejecting a stream of urine out of the water to fall upon the body of another male who waits at the surface with his belly upwards. I'm not saying I've been there too, waiting with my belly up to be peed on by another man, but I have. It's thought that the purpose of this is to communicate using chemical signals. So called because the males are pink in colour, the pink river dolphin is the largest and most widespread of the river dolphins. It has a big, bulbous forehead which contains a melon. A melon is a fatty organ which acts as a sound lens, used for transmitting and receiving vocalizations, allowing river dolphins to use echolocation, a technique in which dolphins will let out a series of clicks and then track the echoes they make in order to build a picture in its mind of the surrounding environment. It's particularly helpful in a place like this because the waters here are often so murky that vision is an almost completely useless tool. Every year during the rainy season, flood waters rise through the basin by as much as 10 to 15 metres. So, somewhere underneath the surface, pink dolphins are swimming through the trees. I wonder if I could use echolocation. I'll give it a try. Okay, eyes closed. Ow! I bumped into a tree. How did I not see that? I only closed my eyes for a few seconds. I'll leave echolocation to the river dolphins. Another near mythical creature from these waters is the green anaconda. These giants need no introduction. They are J-Lo's #1 enemy. Well, maybe her #2 enemy, after Mariah Carey. They can grow over 5 metres in length, which is as long as a bus. Their genus name, Eunectes, means good swimmer. Thankfully, there are no recorded human deaths attributable to anacondas, and given that they could very easily overpower a person, let's just leave it at, thank you for your mercy, mysterious godlike snake, for choosing not to kill me when you so easily could. So, all that is to say, this part of the world is teeming with fantastical creatures. The water's getting bit deeper. In fact, I'm losing the ability to keep my feet on the ground. I'm going to have to float. Here I go. Ugh, there's water in my waders. It's going down my neck. There goes my one line of defense against electrocution. That's so uncomfortable. And heavy. I feel like I'm sinking. When it comes to attacks by electric fishes on humans, again, there are no recorded deaths. A shock of 860 volts is just under the threshold of high voltage, which is considered to be 1000 volts. But a shock of 860 is still enough to cause some serious damage. It could certainly cause someone to lose consciousness, and if you're in the water, that could prove fatal. Ooh, I'm scaring myself. I have tingles up my spine. Ouch. Actually, that's more than just a tingle. I can feel it, but can I see it? I've done it. I've found an electric eel. It's about 6 feet long. What the fuck? Why is it so big? It's a couple of meters away from me, and I still felt that shock. It's surfacing to take gulps of air. That's one of the ways they've adapted to the sediment-laden, oxygen-depleted waters here. They come up to breathe. Let me grab my Pokeball while I have the chance. Here's a fun fact. I hope you're strapped in, because this one's gonna rock your world. The electric eel isn't technically an eel. It's actually a different type of fish, called a knife. There's another one. I thought they were solitary creatures. I didn't realise they lived in pairs. That's a little daunting. There's a third. And a fourth. They appear to be circling me. Oh, I dropped my Pokeball. What should I do? I have washed upon the bank somewhere in the forest. Wow. I feel dead, but I also feel alive. Call me crazy, but It seemed like they were working together. I'm guessing that I accidentally cornered them or threatened them somehow, seeing as they didn't eat me. I don't think I'm really an electric eel's type. Actually, that can't be it. I'm everyone's type. I must have washed downstream, and seeing as I was well on my way to meeting Cassandra, hopefully she's around here somewhere. Oh, there's a lady who I've never met before waving at me over there. Hi. What does she want? Oh, you know what? It's probably Cassandra, isn't it? Cassandra, I'd just been wandering around the swamps of the Amazon, was stunned by an electric eel, and have
So
lived to tell the
sorry.
tale. Oh no, it's okay. It was a
Good.
thrill. It was the spark I was looking for, and ran into you, very fortunately. How are you?
Hi, I am good. I am also here doing some field work, so it is wonderful to see another electric fish enthusiast.
Enthusiastic I am. This is a subject that honestly feels like it shouldn't be a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's one that you have been an active researcher in for years at this point, and it's taken you to your role as curator of ichthyology and malacology at the Bell
Yes.
Museum.
Yes.
What does your role now involve? What does a day look like?
Yeah. So I am not only a curator of ichthyology and malacology, which means I am in charge of the fish and mollusk collections here at the Bell Museum, but I'm also an assistant professor with the University of Minnesota. So I have kind of two appointments, which means I get to do a little bit of everything. I get to teach the fish class every single year. I get to do my own research. I get to lead graduate students and undergrads in doing research. And then I'm also the curator of these two collections, which means I and the people who work for me make sure that the collections stay in good condition. So we are dealing with a lot of organisms that are used to being in wet environments, which means they don't like to dry out. So we have to store our organismal specimens, our euthanized and preserved fishes, in ethanol for years at a time. And I don't know if you know anything about ethanol, but it evaporates actually very quickly.
Hmm.
It's kind of like straight up alcohol or Everclear or something like
Hmm.
that. And if you were to just let it sit in a cup, it would evaporate just as fast as water. And so you have to make sure that all of these jars that these fish sit in are sealed properly. Otherwise, that ethanol will evaporate and then the fish won't be in liquid anymore. They'll dry out and not be useful. So part of my job is having people around me make sure that all of these fishes are in good condition all the time. We're constantly checking jars, we're reorganizing things, and we're also using the collection. So the whole point of these collections is for scientific purposes to allow scientists and researchers to be able to use them for their own work. If they are interested in a fish, but they live in a completely different country, but they want a fish from Minnesota as an example in their study, they might reach out to us and kind of like a library can loan out books, we can loan out specimens.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question about your use of ethanol. I'm not questioning it. uh,
Wasn't my idea.
doesn't alcohol, well, obviously not, but why doesn't it just dry out more, the fish, if it's an alcohol?
Yeah, it's some sort of chemical reaction with the preservative that we use.
Mm.
So the fish are initially euthanized, so kind of put to sleep.
Thank God that happens
And we
first.
put them, we try to make it as painless as possible. We just kind of slow down their nervous system until they slowly stop breathing. And so it's not anything like, we're not trying to give them a heart attack. We're just trying to kind of put them to sleep. The fish will then go into a fixative or like a preservative. And that is a very harsh chemical called formalin. And that kind of, well, fixes the cells in place so that they don't decay and they don't erode. And then after they've been fixed, they can be stored in ethanol then for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
It's something that, a scientist someday was like, what if we tried this and stuck it in there instead of water? If you put it in water, it would, I think, eventually make
Smell.
the formalin, yeah, it would smell. The formalin would kind of dissipate into the water, and apparently it doesn't do that to ethanol. So
Yeah.
they fixed.
Ah, okay, there you go then. I wonder, these fish in your collection are Minnesotan fish?
Minnesotan.
Minnesotan
Minnesota.
fish. So I don't think there are any electric fishes in Minnesota.
We do house primarily fish from Minnesota, but we also have fishes from all over the world. So we don't have many, but we do have a few electric fish specimens. And I'm actually about to head to Africa later this summer to go sampling for more. We're going to get kind of a loan of those specimens that we catch this time and have them in our collection for a couple of years so we can study them before those get shipped back to Kenya, where we're going to do the sampling.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that with this collaboration that I am establishing, that we can bring some electric fishes, more of them, into our collection permanently.
And that's where you've done most of your research, right? In Africa and in South America.
Yes. I have actually, this will be my first time going to Africa. I have not had the pleasure yet. I have been to South America to do some sampling. A lot of my work has used museum specimens. So, like I was talking about, we can give loans out of specimens to different researchers. That's what I did from a lot of museums is I got loans of these creatures so I could study them the way that I wanted to study them before giving them back to that museum.
Do you get a fine if you don't take them back, like a library?
Oh, they would, fine. I think it would be more like they would send somebody to come and arrest me, to because they really want their specimens back.
Hmm.
I'm joking a little bit. They wouldn't send someone to arrest me, but they would be sending me letters. So just kind of being like a little nudge, a little, please give us back our specimens. Thank you.
So access to international collections probably played a big role in your PhD, which was comparing the craniofacial morphologies of these two groups of electric fishes in Africa and South America.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I suppose I've jumped the gun there a bit, actually. First of
Okay.
all, what is an electric fish, please? And
Yes.
how?
How? Yeah. Yep. It's a very, very common question. So many people have actually heard of an electric fish. It's the electric eel. That is one of the species from the group in South America. But what a lot of folks don't know is that there are over 400 species of electric fishes across the world, primarily in South America and Africa, and primarily in freshwater as well. So, not in marine or ocean systems. An electric fish is a fish that has a very special organ. It has kind of repurposed either muscle cells or neurons into this. They fashioned an organ that allows them to produce an electric signal. All living organisms, ourselves included, have kind of this baseline level of electricity in us. We have ions in our cells, and those have positive and negative charges to them. But what these fish are able to do is actually control where the positive and negative ions are in that electric organ. So they can create a dipole, or they can create a positive side and a negative side. And if they send a little neural impulse, like a little brain spark towards it, they can literally generate an electrical current that will go through the organ and then outside of the body, trying to find the side that it's going to be attracted to, that opposite side of the electric field. And this electric signal that they are able to produce, like I said, it kind of goes outside of their body. And so they're able to figure out what's around them. So think of echolocation. So instead of little tiny sounds being emitted by like bats to figure out how far away something is, instead these fish have this constant electric signal, this little electric field around their body, and they can tell if something, living or not, moves in or out of that field and disrupts it. So this is a super helpful adaptation for if you are living somewhere that is dark and murky, full of sediment, and vision wouldn't really be helpful. If you can't see very far in the water in front of your face, how are you going to tell if something is trying to sneak up and eat you? So they have come up with a different sensory system to help them, quote, see, but more sense what's around them in the water.
It's surprising and mind-blowing and wonderful that they
Hmm.
exist. My question in that case is why the skulls? Why the craniofacial morphologies? What can we
Yeah.
learn?
In general, these are kind of understudied groups in terms of what they actually look like, what they eat, where they live. A lot more work has been done on the South American group of electric fish, but far less has been done on the African group. So, thinking about the shape of a skull, giving you kind of an example that you can likely picture would be the difference, at least in the heads, between like a lion and a cow. So if you can picture a lion,
Yep.
they have incredibly strong jaws, super big teeth. Their eyes are also more similar to humans in that they're pointed forward. Both eyes are pointed in the direction of something that they're going to be looking at in front of them. That gives lions and us as humans really good depth perception. We can tell the distance to something a lot easier because we have two eyes to kind of help us gauge that distance. If you think about alternatively a cow, they also have kind of strong jaws because they're chewing away at grass all the time, but their teeth are much flatter. They're not pointy and sharp because they're not trying to pierce through skin. They're trying to gnaw at grass. So they're
Mhm.
very flat so that they can just kind of rub the grass in between their teeth and try to break it down. There's also a difference in the eye position for cows versus lions. For cows and for many, quote, prey items, things that those predators want to eat, their eyes are actually on the sides of their head. And that allows them to get almost a 360 view. They have a much wider vantage point, so they can see much further behind them than we as humans are able to see behind us. And that allows them to see if a predator is trying to sneak up behind them to eat
Handy.
them. Yeah, so there's a purpose behind the shape of the head and where things are configured in the head. And all of that boils down to bones. So there is a bony component and a bony structure to the head that is supporting those structures like the teeth and like the eyes. And so by looking at the bones, in addition to just the overall head shape, we can get a really good indication of maybe what these fishes are eating, how they're eating it. Do they have sharp, pointy teeth? That might mean they're trying to eat other fishes. Do they have flat teeth? That might be indicating they're trying to eat plants and vegetation. Where are their eyes located? Do they honestly even have eyes? Because we're talking about dark, murky waters where, like I said, vision is not super helpful.
Mm.
There's actually one species of electric fish in South America that just have these like little tiny pinprick black eyes on their faces that aren't even equal. They're not symmetrical. It looks like you just took a pen and like put a dot on its face, and that's its eyeball. It's not functional. It's not usable. No light can get into that very easily. So they've pretty much just written off vision and are just using their electric signal.
Oh, what a funky looking animal I'm
Yeah.
imagining.
Yeah, so I am trying to use the head and the skull shape to figure out what is the organism eating, how is it eating it, where is it living, can we tell that? And just what does its life look like? What
Yeah.
can we tell about the fish just based on its shape of the head?
So I suppose I wonder why you can't, I don't know how to word this. Can't you just watch them? And
Again, there's no light.
yeah.
Yes, I mean we you can capture them and put them into aquaria and try to keep them alive. Unfortunately, they're super sensitive. Most of
Hmm.
these species don't do well in tanks. They don't love it. They like a lot of water current. A lot of times they live in rivers, and so if they're sitting in a tank where the water's kind of stagnant and not really moving around, they're just not happy.
Yeah.
They don't like it a lot, and so they're also not going to behave normally. And so, while it is great to try to supplement some of the information that we get from morphology, from shape, with live fish,
Hmm.
if you can't see them, it's really hard to know what they're doing.
Yeah, good luck with
It's kind
that.
of been yeah, that's been the classic problem for some of these species.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I guess they are just living in these really murky waters, and that's
Mhm.
what defines their capabilities as electric
Yeah,
fishes.
yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you have learned from comparing these different skull types, and did anything surprise you?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was trying to do was do comparisons across these two different groups. So this is a concept called convergent evolution. So it's the idea that similar traits or similar characteristics have evolved more than one time across the tree of life. Some classic examples would be a functional trait like flight that has evolved in birds and bats, but independently. Birds and bats are not super closely related. And they also build their wings a little bit differently as well. But at the same time, functionally, they're trying to do similar things. They're trying to take advantage of an aerial ecosystem that predators might not be able to get to them up there. But what I was looking at is trying to figure out, okay, we have two groups of electric fishes. Other people have taken a look at evolutionary history and the timeline and when we think the electric signals evolved based on when these groups lived, where they lived. Back in the day, continents were in different positions than they are now. Back in the day, South America and Africa were actually connected. And so organisms that lived on those two continents could travel back and forth. There was a land bridge. They could literally just go back and forth, lots of genetic flow between those two continents. And when those two continents were connected, there was a species of fish. We can call it the ancestor to electric fishes. Then the two continents, because of tectonic plates and all of these geology things that I am not an expert in, but I know they happened, they shifted the continents around so that South America and Africa became separated. This meant, especially for freshwater fish that can't use the ocean to transverse and connect to the other continent anymore, they were now evolving independently on these two different continents. That meant that we had kind of a lineage of fishes in South America and a lineage of fishes in Africa. What these scientists have discovered is that that separation of the continents predates when the electric signals evolved. So both groups evolved electric signals independently on their two continents. That ancestor to electric fishes did not have electric capabilities. And so this was an example of convergent evolution, that two groups that can no longer interbreed with each other came up with the same evolutionary conclusion in two different places. Honestly, right about the same time. They were both evolving this about 100 to 150 million years ago. And so, since we already had an example of convergent evolution in these two groups with this electric signal, what I wanted to know was, since they do have that ancestor, that means that there's some shared genes between these two groups. Are there also shared morphologies? Are there also shared skull shapes between these two groups? And so I used some fancy methods. I put a whole lot of dots on skulls. They're called landmarks, where you're trying to quantify shape. It is a funky method, and then you put it all into the computer where the computer does all of the math for you.
Hmm.
And so I don't really want to attempt to explain that math
Oh,
because it's
please,
a
please
bit
don't.
over my pay grade. It has like matrix algebra and stuff that I'm like, yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about, but mostly I'll just believe the smart people who came up with the method
Yeah,
and
just
then
nod,
make it
smile and
happen.
nod. Think about
Yes,
fish.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And that allows me to actually statistically compare shape, which is kind of funky, but trying to see how similar or different these skulls are across these two groups. Now, this was all kind of brought about because I was just looking at pictures of these two groups of fishes. And I noticed just some qualitative similarities. Both of these groups have species with what kind of looks like an elephant trunk
Mm.
off the front of their face. They have these long, downturned elephant trunk-like snouts. And I was like, that's really intriguing that it has evolved in both of these groups. Can I actually tell if they are building their skull the same way? We have a ton of bones in our skull that make up our skull. We have about 22 bones that make up our face. Fishes have about 150
Oh, wow.
bones that make up their face. So quite a bit more,
Yeah.
which makes it pretty complex and pretty complicated, but could also give them a whole lot of opportunities to have similar shapes in those bones. So I was trying to use these math methods to do an actual comparison and figure out, can we say with certainty that they are building these long elephant trunk-like snouts the same way? Spoiler alert, they do not actually build them exactly the same way. There are some statistically significant differences in how they do it. And our current working hypothesis is that they might be extending or elongating different bones to get to that same shape.
Yeah, okay. So did you find that because these species from different continents that look really similar have used different bones to reach that result,
Mhm.
that they do have different capabilities?
That's a future direction.
Mm,
So like I said, I've been mainly doing museum specimen work. So looking at these preserved specimens, preserved organisms, which means it's really hard to tell the f true function or see, you can't see it in real life. You can't
mm,
see the snout moving in real time.
mm.
You can only do what you can do to see if it kind of moves a little bit. It's
Imagine
not
you
quite
shaking a fish
realistic,
in your lab,
right? Yeah. Don't tell Aya Cook that I am.
flopping a fish around in the lab improperly.
They're dead, so Aya Cook probably doesn't care. It's like an overseeing oversight committee. But if it's already dead, they probably don't care.
And
So.
it's fun probably to shake a fish in a
I
lab.
mean, you do flick ethanol around a little bit, so that's a little less fun. It's kind of smelly.
That wasn't one of my questions, but I've got a really nice visual now. You were about to explain a bit about what you were going to look at in terms of the diets.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am headed to Kenya later this summer with a couple of my graduate students
Exciting.
to try to catch some of these African electric fishes. So one of our goals is to, well, hopefully just catch the fish. That is like goal number one. It kind of has to be base level. First, you have to catch them. If you don't catch them, then, I mean, it was a great trip, but less useful for my science. So fingers crossed we actually catch the fish that we want to catch. And then we can do a couple of different things. So the first is a super fun method that I'm excited to try out called a gastric lavage. Very
Ooh,
fancy. It means we try to make the fish puke. So it's a medical, technically like a medical procedure type thing. People use it if they've accidentally ingested too much medication.
right.
They'll try
Okay.
to make them vomit. So we can do that to the fish
Okay.
to try to figure out what they have just eaten.
It sounds
So see what's
French.
in their stomach. I know it does. I don't know. I do not know the origin of the word. I did not do spelling bees as a kid.
Mm,
Not great at spelling.
it's probably something weird they
Um,
do in France.
Try not to think about that.
Yeah.
But we can do that. And so we can physically see what was in the fish's stomach, which can tell us what the fish ate. But we can also use some newer methods that are actually based on genetics. So this is an idea called environmental DNA. This is the idea that organisms, humans included, are, and I think this is the scientific term for it, sloughing off cells all the
Really?
time.
Schluffing?
Sloughing. Think about it kind of like dust. Like dust is made up of human skin cells. It's really
Mm.
gross. But we're just kind of leaving traces of our DNA everywhere. And all organisms are doing this, fish included, in the water. So we can take samples of water and samples of dirt, sediment, and actually try to extract DNA from it and see if we can tell what organisms are living where. And this can give us information on what potential prey items might be, but also just kind of what organisms are living in that area in general. Then we can do that exact method on the gut contents, on the stuff that we got from the gastric lavage, so that we can get the DNA sequences of the exact things that this fish was eating.
Mm.
Finally, another method that we're going to do is stable isotopes.
Ah,
So we can take a tissue sample from these fishes and pretty much figure out a trophic food web of the area. So what fishes are eating other fishes, which fishes are eating plants, all of those types of questions you can try to answer from stable isotopes is the official term for it. So it is using far more chemistry than I usually do, but that is what collaborators are for, and that is what friends are for, is to help us with the things that we are not as good at.
indeed. But you're an expert in ethanol,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
number one
I
chemical.
have about 115 gallons of ethanol in my lab.
Lucky you.
I know, yeah. Fun fact, actually, in Russia, they used to have to lace fish collections, all of that ethanol with, I think, turpentine so that people wouldn't drink it.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Did they? I
That
bet they
would
drank it anyway.
probably and then died. But yeah, we do not, there's no consuming of ethanol in my lab at all. That is not allowed. No.
What is the name of the overseeing body again?
Ayacook,
IACUC. Okay, we'll just
yes,
emphasize that
it's
to IACUC. No ethanol is drunk in the convergence lab.
none. Actually, that's probably more of like a safety and hazard oversight committee. We have a lot of committees. There are a lot of people overseeing everything in the university. So no ethanol is ever consumed in my lab. It is not. I like actually am 100% serious because otherwise I would probably go to jail. It is not. It's also probably got like little traces of formalin in there. So like also something you don't want to ingest at all.
Yeah,
Nasty.
no,
Nasty.
wouldn't recommend.
No, no.
So stable isotope analysis, that is quite a sophisticated method of being able to figure out what fish are up to because we can't simply look at them.
Hmm.
But what are they up to?
Yeah, there's a wide variety. So if you were to just look up the term electric fishes or electric fish on Google, then you would see a whole bunch of different types of organisms, like different shapes, especially different head shapes. And we have found some correlations with head shape and what these fishes are doing. So the ones that have that kind of elephant trunk-like snout that is super long and kind of points down, think of an anteater or something like that. They're actually rooting around in the sediment for little tiny bugs. So
Mm.
they're rooting around the bottom of the river channels, the bottom of the lakes, and trying to find bugs that are hiding in the dirt. We also have some pack hunters. So kind of like the lions of African Rift Lakes, which is kind of terrifying to think about as a concept. They will literally group together. They have these really strong jaws with these freaky looking teeth, and they will just go around and try to eat other fish as a pack and bring down a big one to just gnaw on. Um, a lot of different things. And yeah, those are some, I guess, quirky examples.
Mm. So there's a whole host of animals doing
Yeah.
really different things,
Yeah.
including
Yes.
giant cooperative
Yes.
electric fishes that I actually was looking into them. I think that the highest volt, oh God, I'm not a physicist, so correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, me neither.
The highest voltage an electric fish can produce is produced by an electric eel in South America, and
Hmm.
that's 860 volts. And
Hmm.
a study observed a pack of them doing pretty much what you just described and suggested that if there were 10 of them and they all synchronize, that's 8,600 volts. I don't know why I've got this desire to like to be at risk by these animals, but that could easily kill a person.
Oh yeah, 100%. One by itself won't kill you, but I've had people compare it to like sticking a fork in an outlet. So really doesn't feel great at all. I mean, low key dangerous, but I mean, probably won't kill you. But these fishes are insane. There are stories from people going into the Amazon, white people going into the Amazon to figure out what's cool in this particular area and seeing electric eels try to attack their horses as they're walking across rivers and streams.
Hmm.
And the eels will jump up out of the water and they can shock things out of the water. And they were trying to take out the
I'm
horses
gonna love that.
and it's terrifying. I have not personally encountered an electric eel in the wild, and I don't need to
No,
personally. No,
but good luck in Africa.
they don't have eels there.
Oh
They're
no.
less there. No, so I don't know that I mentioned this right away when I was talking about all the species, but really the electric eel is the most powerful one. The rest of them are what we call weakly electric. So in general, unless it's like a really, really, really big fish, you can't even tell that it has electricity. You can stick your hand in the water, pick it up, and you won't feel a thing. If it's a big enough fish, you might feel like a little bit of a tingle, maybe, but you won't be shocked or anything like that. And so they're using this electric signal, like I said, for that kind of sensory fake form of version of vision. So trying to see what's around them or sense what's around them. But what's also really cool is they can use it for communication as well. So each of these different species, and there are over 400 between the two different groups, have a slightly different signal itself. And so they can theoretically tell if another fish is the same species as them or if it's a different species and might want to eat them. And so they can use it for kind of communication and identifying the other fishes that are around them.
So they're using it for figuring out where they are in the world because they can't see, figuring
Hmm.
out what else is around them, where their prey
Yep.
is, and then going on to use it to stun their prey.
Some of them, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Multifaceted approach, multi-use tool.
Yeah, it's amazing. One thing that I feel when I think about electric fishes is that and especially when we think about how little we know about the ocean, for example, is
Hmm.
what is evolution capable of? It feels like pretty much
Everything,
anything. Yeah.
anything, anything. And fishes are a great group to study. It's also a frustrating one sometimes. There's so much diversity. And there's always an exception. Like you can have a rule and then it's like there's something that doesn't do that. Oh, fish live in the water. Well, no, not all of them do. They have to have water in order to breathe. Well, no, not all of them do. Some of them have lungs and they breathe air.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating sometimes because you can never say all fishes do this or all fishes have that because there is always an exception. Evolution is always doing the most.
That's one thing they say about biology, isn't it? It's pretty messy.
Yes, but I love that. I love it.
I also think that in order to be a scientist, which I'm not, you have to be creative, like you have to think about outside
Mhm.
the box.
I love the connection between science and art. I think that art is a way that we can try to show the usefulness of science and also just see the beauty of it. Evolution doesn't really have a plan. Um, Organisms are just kind of trying to survive, and it's this complex dance of which organisms are able to make it and pass along their genes, and what traits did they have that made them successful. And that leads to the next generation and which ones are successful there. And so there's no end goal. And I feel like it's kind of similar in art as well. Like there's not a pinnacle, there's not perfection. Everything is what it is. And that's beautiful in and of itself. I would
Cool.
also push back on that. I think everyone can be a scientist, and most people are.
Oh,
I don't think it has anything to do with training. I think if you are asking questions about the natural world, and especially if you're trying to answer them in any way, even if it's just for yourself, that's a scientist right there.
I love that. Thank you. That's going on my LinkedIn profile.
Amazing.
I also wanted to ask you what it is about electric fishes that you love.
Oh goodness, what do I love about that? I love everything about them. A lot of people like, I don't know, pretty fishes, like ones that live in the reef and they're all colorful and all of that. And if I'm being brutally honest, I love the weird and potentially ugly looking fishes. I like the ones that everyone's like, that's a fish. That makes me so unbelievably happy because then that means that I get to tell them all about the weird things that fish do. And also, you just say electric fish or electric fishes, and people are like, wait, what? And I love that reaction. So then I get to explain things too. I love just talking about them. So anything that makes people second guess what they knew is fantastic in my book.
Brilliant. Um, well, my head's still throbbing a little bit, to be honest, after getting shocked by that eel. I think I need to go lie down. Not that this hasn't been interesting. So
Um,
I'll say goodbye. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation and maybe even learned something.
Hi, I'm back in my kitchen sink. This is really awkward, but I actually didn't learn anything. I can't remember any of that conversation. I got stunned by another electric eel on my attempt to leave and passed out. I woke up hours or months later, frankly, I couldn't be sure, having been washed fully down the Iriri River and out of the mouth of the Amazon. When I came to, I was floating around in the South Atlantic, miles from shore and covered in bird shit. Those pesky electric eels. I sure do hope that conversation was interesting. Seeing as I can't remember a word of it, I'm left with some burning questions, things that you, the listener, will now know the answer to. How is an electric eel able to harness the power of electricity? What do they use it for? How can we study their behaviour? And are they technically even eels? I couldn't tell you, and I love that. Thank you very much, Cassandra, for sharing your expertise and for your role in revealing the secrets of these extraordinary creatures. Thank you, Damon Macmillan, for the music, and thank you for listening. Until next time, I will leave you now with a poem. It's titled... You know what? Doesn't matter what it's called. In the thick and tangled forest, where a swollen river flows, in a portion of the jungle to which a person only goes if they're willing to come across things that might just seem to be from the fevered thoughts of a sleeping child who's trapped in a tortured dream. Here the water flows through treetops, and creatures gnarled and ghoulish lurk in the submerged undercanopy, in the gloom and through the murk. A little blunt-nosed knifefish, Brachyhippopotamus brevirostris. Though he's camouflaged, he might wish that he had never lost his. Way back from the surface, for he had just come up to breathe. And once he'd gulped up quite enough and turned back down to leave, the world around him turned from dark and dull to hot bright pink. As a pod of river dolphins flanked him, he had no time to think. As a knifefish, he's electric, nothing much more than a tingle, is all that he can muster when predators try to mingle. So down he shot as instinct, through a swirl of rose and blush and fuchsia, through the snapping jaws of Boto, forgetting the minutiae of when he'll eat next or if he'll sleep tonight, for now his fish brain gives way to just one single thought, if he'll die or if he'll live. Emerging from the jaws, he must then evade another, a whole family of hungry mouths, the dolphin's auntie, son, and mother. Somewhere in the frenzy, the knifefish makes the clever call to flee deep into the forest, to escape the violent brawl. With the pink assassins chasing bubbles, our hero swims away, passing into calmer waters, from the teeth and from the fray. A world slowly emerges, an endless scape of tangled vines and haggard twisted buttresses, for he's now in the confines of the forest of the Amazon, where 400 billion trees stand, a labyrinth that's built upon piles of dead leaves, mud and sand. Seeking solace in the shadow of an overhanging bough, and glancing all about himself before heading up to allow another gulp of hearty oxygen from the air he will endow himself with as he settles back, his fatigue he'll disavow. Now cool, calm and collected, he opts to hide down near the floor, but to his left he has detected a branch which wasn't there before. It's thicker than the others, resting squarely in the bed, and it tapers up to something that looks awfully like a head, and the head's hypnotic holding eyes make sure he doesn't wander, for staring up, a grim surprise, the great green anaconda. Lurching down, our knifefish dives, 100 needled teeth appear as our protagonist thinks fast to get beneath the body of the reptile, who turns right on his tail, but the knifefish darts into a thicket, and so the snake's attack does fail. In a quiet place beyond his knowledge, where at last he now can rest, in a dark corner of forest, he can end his aimless quest. For the first time in a long time, No teeth are scraping at his side. No dolphin's pink or serpent's green. He's alone, and here he'll hide. It's as his eyes get all adjusted to the place in which he's cowering, he regrets the calm he blindly trusted, for now he feels a harrowing sense that he's not by himself, and a fear that's all devouring. In the gloom and through the murk comes a looming shadow towering. Of all the beasts in the flooded forest, here's a figure all too familiar, for approaching slowly is his kin, which turns the water chillier. And this relative has not come here to celebrate the family gathering. This titan of the knife fishes is foamy-mouthed and lathering, and frothing with excitement in a most unsettling way. Our little knife fish must act quick again, if he's to live another day. If he had legs, then he would be expected now to kneel to the god of all electric fishes, the one electric eel, darting fast his strategy for getting out of trouble. But as he turns the other way, his problems start to double, to triple and quadruple, till on all sides he's flanked by Electrophorus volti, outnumbered, sized and ranked. His heart then takes its final beat, as the water starts to burn, with voltage more than he can stomach. From a shock he won't return.